Hello again, Stroke. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Torchlight 3, and this one is for the Railmaster plus Bane combo. I decided to call it the Miasmic train because, well, it's your typical standard Bane train build where you're stacking Miasma with Puppet Master and maximizing the DPS of things like Flamethrower Car and Shotgonne Car. So yeah, it's a typical meta standard setup of the Railmaster and Bane, and people have been asking me what would you consider a meta build, because I always say that this build's not meta, that build's not meta in my videos for security reasons, because I haven't tested how far they can go. But this build has been confirmed by many others even before the game launch that it can do Fuzzier until the end. So it's probably different from other people's Bane train builds, but this is my take on it. This is what I would consider to be a meta Bane train setup. This is my suggestion. I will be showing you a few setups because there's a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to modifying the skill points and allocating those points. So yeah, you might want to consider some of those options, which you would see in the next segment. In general, I think the damage is good, and I've gotten this build to do up to 400 and something thousand damage with Flamethrower Car without even stacking percent damage with Flamethrower Car. My gear is not perfect, and I've seen this on Ridiculous do decent damage and melt bosses, and it was pretty easy to push the Fuzzier. I just get bored from the Fuzzier and I can't push all the way until 100. Because 100 is the real end. After 100 the enemies don't get stronger. It's just more time consuming to reach 251, pardon me. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the build. It's fun, it's nice. If you like trains, unlike me, I can't stand the train builds in this game. But yeah, people have been asking for meta builds, so this is one that I can surely say is meta, and with the right items and in the right hands can reach the end of the Fuzzier's dungeon. So let's show you the skills now. Here we are at the skills segment. In this part of the video I will tell you what skills I've invested my skill points into, how many skill points in each skill, and why. So first, maybe we can start with the conductor side of things, and keep in mind before we continue with this video, keep in mind I've got the Cosmic Helmet and Cosmic Breastplate in my Legendarium. Ideally I will have the Cosmic Helmet equipped, so this sword here would be for something else. What else I will talk about later. So let's start with the conductor skills. As I said, you want tier 3 Flamethrower Car. And if you have the +2 skill points, that means 8 points into Flamethrower Car. And that also means if you want tier 3 Shotgonne Car, 8 points into that one. I really like this +20% damage to conductor skills from Build Train. I'm not relying on Build Train for the damage, I just need that tier 2 bonus to increase the damage of Flamethrower and Shotgonne Car. Now, Mortar Car here, we've only invested into it for the cooldown for Railmaster skills. I really hope the developers will reconsider this and make it cooldown for skills, so it would also benefit on all classes the cooldown of things like Poison, Nova, Living Barrier, etc. Not just the class skills, but yeah, this one gives us 10% cooldown for Flamethrower Car's active and for Shotgonne Car's active skill. It also helps us with the cooldown of Hammer Spin, Lantern Flash, we are not using Lantern Flash by the way, and Blasting Charge. So that's why Mortar Car tier 2, and tier 2 Ghost Train makes the basic attack speed for train cars faster, so all of those 3 train cars that we're using on our skill bar will attack 10% faster. Now let's move on to the slammer side of skills. I only use Spike Drive because right now affixes like this one, 19% chance to slow by 50% of base speed for 5 seconds. Those affixes don't work on bosses. And Spike Drive is good. Even 1 point in Spike Drive would let you slow bosses. I don't know whether this is intentional to not allow us to slow bosses with affixes and only with skills. It makes no sense to be able to slow them with skills but not with affixes. Then what's the point of this affix if you can't use the slow on bosses? But in any case, the slow on bosses is important for one reason, and this is that reason. Lantern Flash tier 2. Lantern Flash Tier 2 lets you do 65% extra damage versus stunned, blinded or swowed targets. And the swowed targets is what you want because swowing lasts for longer than stunning or blinding a target. So that's why the affix for swowing is pretty good. You don't need to use a spike drive unless you're fighting bosses, but it does help to start a fight with spike drive, because that way, eventually during the fight, you would probably spend your endurance and recharge spike drive and be able to use it later. But the best thing about starting with spike drive is your next skills would all do more damage. Things like Blasting Charge would do more damage, things like your train cars would do more damage, because you would have applied the spike drive, you would have applied the slow with spike drive. Otherwise you have to rely on one of the skills that you use first to apply the slow, so that the next skills after that would benefit from it. So 1 point spike drive is a very good investment. If they make it so that we can slow with our affixes from the shield or offhand focus, I would put that point into Poison Nova for defense. Now, another good thing on the Slammer side of things that I like investing into on any Railmaster build, be it Slammer, Conductor or any Relic based build, it would be Blasting Charge. Blasting Charge with its tier 1 bonus makes us make the enemy vulnerable for 30% damage for 6 seconds. So they're taking 30% damage more from this, and they're taking 65% extra damage from this. That's 95% extra damage from those two skills. And you're saying, okay, if you only need the tier 1 bonus, why the tier 2? Well, the tier 2 bonus of Blasting Charge is great, and I like it as well, because it gives us extra 20% damage reduction in melee combat. Some of you may not know what this means. What is damage reduction in melee combat? It's a skill called Fighter Spirit that procs whenever you do a melee attack. Melee attacks can be attacks with sword, great sword, rail hammer or mace, or attacks with skills that use melee range, such as hammer spin, spike drive, torque swing or pound. Right now there is a bug, and Lantern Flash, Blasting Charge and Flying Picks can trigger Fighter Spirit, the melee damage reduction, and there's a bug that Miasma can trigger it, but don't get too attached to bugs. Don't get too attached to getting survivability from bugs. That's why I'm using a mace. And not just that, because I just don't like playing this build with pistol. It starts shooting at enemies when I'm trying to move away, and I have to hold the button to force move, and I just prefer playing with a sword this build. I'm using a mace because I couldn't find a great sword. I mean a good sword, not a great sword. But yeah, I couldn't find a good sword, so I'm using a mace. But yeah, that's the other thing on the Slammer side of things. And Hammer Spin tier 3. The tier 3 bonus of Hammer Spin lets you get 50% damage reduction shield on cast for 6 seconds. This shield stacks up with the Hammer Spin's basic attack. I mean, not the basic attack, but the melee damage. Because Hammer Spin classifies, as I said, as a melee attack, so it's gonna give you 50 or 50 plus 20% if you have this tier bonus damage reduction. And the tier 3 bonus gives you extra 50% damage reduction, but the cap is 90%, so you can never get more than 90% damage reduction. But just using Hammer Spin by itself would put my damage reduction, as you might see, to 90% without anything else. So that's pretty good to know. I really love Hammer Spin tier 3, and I love Hammer Spin tier 1 as well. And the tier 2 bonus is an extra good thing. On the Bane side of things, I'm keeping it very simple. Max out Arachnid Assault. This is actually optional, you might keep it to tier 2, but this slow from the tier 2 queen is definitely nice. So if you don't wanna put 10 points into Arachnid Assault, you can save 4 points and maybe put them into Energizer. Or into this one for crit chance for your conductor skills if you need the crit chance. So 10 points Miasma must have, you need that. 10 points into Miasma gives you the tier 3 bonus that gives you minion damage 100% while Miasma is active. So all your minions, including the train, and the train counts as a minion, would do 100% extra damage while Miasma is active. So needless to say, get that maxed out. This also gives you 50% increased defenses while it's active, and it also gives you and nearby allies 25% more damage. So Puppet Master gives you extra 25% more minion damage. It's not necessary, but it stacks well with this damage here. If you don't want Puppet Master, you can put the points into Energizer or even Spread of Death if you want that. I think that's pretty much it for the skills. Now let's talk about the Legendarium. In the Legendarium, I strongly suggest Doom Pipe if you're wearing a Shotgunner Shield, or a Shotgunner Shield here if you're wearing a Doom Pipe. I couldn't get Wookiee and get the Shotgunner Shield, I couldn't get Wookiee and get a high level Cosmic Helmet, and I couldn't get Wookiee and get a high level Cosmic Gauntlets. I strongly suggest putting the Cosmic Breastplate in the Legendarium together with the Doom Pipe and wearing a good slow chance Shotgunner Shield with good rolls. And that would leave you with one slot. In this one slot there's many things you can put, such as Blast Breaker, Centrifugal Demolisher. You can even try using things like Cosmic Boots if you're using the basic attacks, if you're wearing anything that's not the Cosmic Boots. But other things that you can consider if you're not wearing the Pauldrons, the Cosmic Pauldrons. Then there's Arc Powered Shoulders and Skittering Shoulders, which, mind you, with a very soon update, I think on Tuesday, which would make it the 27th of October. I think with that update we will be getting what they already teased, the new set items that would drop only in the Fazir's dungeon, and they are saying that there would be reworking certain things like shoulders for non-class specific sets to give you a skill that you put in your skill bar. So this right now triggers when you cast Arachnid Assault, getting that charged up, then charged up would change to something that you put on your skill bar and you use it on demand every X seconds with the cooldown. So don't get too attached to Arc Powered Shoulders or Skittering Shoulders, they will be changing the way they operate. But for now you can use them. So ideally here I will probably put the new shoulders, which would apparently give us a way to recharge our relic charge. By relic charge I don't mean the relic energy, I mean this. And I'm not sure whether it's the relic charge that we will be able to get from 0 to 200, or whether it's gonna be the relic energy from 0 to 200, but the shoulders would give us a skill that lets us do one of the two things. Either of the two things would be great, because it would be extra energy that you just get right away like a battery. So that's one thing you can consider putting there. Another thing to consider putting there would be anything that you might like. You might want extra mobility, you might want extra charges to certain things. You might even want extra procs when you're using basic attacks, but in general this is a minion build and the train is the main centerpiece of this build. So think about things that would improve this or improve your survivability, because it's not a proc monster build, so certain things are not that great. In any case, I can't wait to see the new items. This is what I would leave up to you to decide what to do, but my suggestion for now would be Blast Breaker or Centrifugal Demolisher, or another cosmic item that you like the ability of. For example, the gauntlets are pretty decent if you don't have them. The cosmic gauntlets, let me show you what they look like. Those ones. Use any train car active skill. Next melee attack within 5 seconds causes a flame burst, dealing 8% weapon damage. I do like this one. I really do like this one. I hope it drops for me soon. The Tenderizer seems like a debate kind of item, so I wouldn't invest into this one for this build. So I think that's pretty much it for the Legendarium. Let's talk about the pet skills I use for this build. I'm using the crit chance because I whack crit chance in my gear. Crit chance is capped at 40, so if you're stacking a lot of crit chance from your gear, if you're using a two-hander for example, and if you're using a two-hander you would have to put the Shotgunner Shield with the Doom Pipe and Cosmic Breastplate here. So yeah, if you're using a two-hander, maybe you might have enough crit chance and you might not need deadlier strikes, then either Defender Aura or Increased Awareness or a Running Partner, whichever you like. I really like using the Screeching Stun because it lets us stun enemies, and when we stun the enemies there's a chance, I mean they take that extra 65% damage from Lantern Flash. The thing is, this is only 30-second cooldown. If you don't like it, then put Immobilizing Strike, it's still a good option. The one must-have skill for me on any build is Healing Friendship. So if you have it, use it. It's extra healing, so there's not much not to like about this skill. I like using Battle Cry, but sometimes I switch to Defensive Posture. It's decent, and you can just use other things if you want, but I definitely prefer going for Deadlier Strikes and Healing Friendship. The rest is just fillers. So that's it for the skill segment. Next we will talk about the suggested gear, the suggested items and affixes to use. And here we are at the gear segment. Here I will talk about the items I like using for this build, the ideal, my personal best in SWAT items, and the affixes, the roles on each of those items that I would suggest going for. So let's start with my weapon and shield, or weapon and offhand. Ideally, you would be wearing, at least for me, the perfect setup would be a one-handed weapon, preferably a melee like a mace or a sword. I prefer the sword because it's decent attack speed, not as fast as the mace, but it does hit multiple targets. It does a little bit less weapon damage than the mace, but it's still my preferred choice. So a good road with flat damages, mace or sword with a socket and a wife bound on it, ideally. If you have a spare one, wife bind it. Like I have a second mace that's almost the same damage in one of my storages, this one here. So yeah, what you want is flat damage at the top, and it always has flat damage at the top. You want in the middle 2 times flat damage, and then you want to add another type of flat damage from enchanting. And the one that's easiest to reach with enchanting is the hot or cold. Hot or cold basically has 6 things that you can get, and of those 6 things, 4 are not flat damage, the other 2 are flat damage. So you've got 33% chance to get a flat damage with this one. So that's the one I suggest. Of course, there's things to consider. And that's wearing boots with flat damage, and this brings us to the boots. For example, boots can give you percent damage, not flat, percent damage. So it can give you percent electric, percent fire, percent poison, etc. And if you have those boots, you would want the percent damage that matches your weapon. So let's say this weapon is electric, and then let's say in the bottom I've got electric and physical, then I would ideally want electric damage in the socket. They made it so it can now again roll the same damage in a socket even if you have it in the middle. And ideally you would want a chest with electric, like this one. And then you would want legs with electric, and you can get legendary chest or legs with flat damage, and you can get legendary boots with percent damage. So for example, something like this, where is it? I want to show you some very good roll. For example, look at this one. This gives you crit damage and percent elemental damage on boots. This is one of the perfect rolls you can get on blue boots. You get the percent crit damage, you get the percent elemental damage, and if the percent elemental damage matches your highest attack damage, you can see what your highest is over here. Under attack, you look what the biggest number is, and whatever that biggest number is, that's what you want a percent on. And this brings us to other things with percent. See, this one can give you flat damage, but it can also give you crit damage, and it can also give you percent damage. So on the chest you would want flat damage of your highest attack, whatever the main damage of your weapon is, and then you would want either percent damage of that one, or you would want things like crit chance. I mean crit damage, because this one doesn't have crit chance, this one crit damage. So the legs can give you crit chance, but the legs can also give you damage with Flamethrower Car. And I've tested flat damage legs don't give me as much DPS as 26-25% damage with Flamethrower Car. So ideally I would be wearing the Cosmic Helmet, the Cosmic Gauntlets, and the Cosmic Boots with those 2 items. Because I can put those shoulders and get 24.6 Flamethrower Car damage, then I can get 26.9 Flamethrower Car damage with those legs. So the shoulders and the legs would give me over 50% damage with Flamethrower Car, and this would be amazing, high, huge damage boost. So keep that in mind. flat damage is not as good as percent damage with Flamethrower Car. And percent damage with Flamethrower Car is one of the most important things for this build, if you can get it. So ideally, if you want to go for the flat damage build, you would get flat damage here and then crit chance or flat damage and percent damage. They can roll on green and blue items. Or you can even get flat damage and damage with Flamethrower Car, even better. On the shoulders you can get crit damage and damage with Flamethrower Car as the perfect rolls. At the top you would want some defenses. In general, for all armor pieces I would suggest going for defenses over block and evasion, but block and evasion are good when you stack them. If you get 40% block and 40% evasion, that's a total of only 36% chance to get hit when they're striking you. So that's something to consider. What else did I not talk about? I didn't talk about the shield. The shield can drop with chance to swow. And chance to swow is great. Chance to swow is something you really want on the shield. I already talked in the skill segment why chance to swow is good, and that's Lantern Flash tier 2. If enemies are swowed, they will be taking 65% extra damage. So chance to swow is just great. It's just amazing for the build. And ideally you would be wearing the Shotgunner's shield here. And you would be wearing a Shotgunner shield that has defense and block chance at the top, and then at the bottom chance to swow and something else good, which could be defense or anything else you like. And then you would have socket. In general, anywhere in every item you would want a socket ideally, and you would be going for defenses or flat damages or other things that you might like. For example, I think on gauntlets you can get a chance to elemental ailment, which you don't need for this build, but for other builds you might want shock, you might want what's its name, poison, bleeding, etc. But that's pretty much it for your items. That's what I would use ideally. So then let's move on to pet items. Dryad neckband like this one is perfect god roll for me, for the way I like playing my pet items. So pet attack speed and faster cooldown for pet active skills with the Dryad neckband. The Dryad neckband benefits from the pet attack speed, because the faster the pet attacks, the faster it recovers your and its own HP with the Dryad neckband. And the faster the cooldown of the pet active skills is, the faster the pet would be able to use any of its skills, such as healing, friendship. So on the badges and the tokens, or whatever you want to call the pet tags, you would want again faster cooldown and attack speed. Ideally you would have something like token of rapid bartering or the phoenix token here. I'm gonna show you the phoenix that resurrects the pet, but the phoenix is only useful if you notice the pet dying. If you're farming, rapid bartering is a must-have, it's amazing. Token of invigoration is one of my favorite ones, so I would suggest if you can get a token of invigoration and maybe rapid bartering, and then you're set. I mean, there's other ones you could use, like the fire nova, the shock nova, or the poison one. They're not bad ones, but yeah, I would suggest rapid bartering and invigoration together with Dryad neckband, and to get cooldown reduction and attack speed. And that pretty much sums up the things about the gear. I might have missed some things, so you might want to check the website version of the build, it would be in the description and it would be in the comment section. So you might want to check there for some more information that maybe I missed saying in this video. Next, let's move on to showing you some more gameplay footage. Here we are at the segment where I talk about how to play the build, maybe how to rotate the skills. It's not that difficult. Train builds in general don't require as much comboing as a slammer build would, for example. So yeah, just start off either with Spike Drive to slow the enemies, make them take more damage via the passive of Lantern Flash, or you can start with Busting Charge and then follow up with Spike Drive. Of course you would wanna start with Miasma sometimes if it's ready, and then do that combination of Spike Drive, Busting Charge or Busting Charge Spike Drive. But after that you wanna follow up with either Shotgun or Flamethrower, one after the other, depending what you prefer. I normally prefer using Shotgun before using Flamethrower Car, but you might want to use Flamethrower Car first and then use Shotgun to finish off whatever's left alive. It's not that difficult, it's not rocket science. I mean, you have Arachnid Assault, use it whenever it's ready, or maybe save it for big enemies and use it then for elites and other types of champions or for bosses. And pay attention to your energy. Sometimes you might want to save your miasma for when it's actually needed. For example, when you encounter a champion and then you would want to get that extra damage, so don't waste miasma if there's no champions or no boss in sight. In general, hammer spin is your escape mechanic. It's pretty simple, just use it when you want to, and when they fix some of those extra glitches that give us fighter spirit, you might want to use hammer spin for that extra fighter spirit damage reduction. And spike drive can also proc the same thing. To get notified when I upload more content like this or similar for this game or other games like it, such as Wooters of all varieties, you could subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button to not miss out on notifications, and optionally you can even join as a member of the Struck Club and get access to emotes, badges or other perks such as private tutorials and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank the people who are currently YouTube members of the Struck Club. Thanks for watching this video, keep it cool, and until next time, Struck Club. Goodbye.